Hey guys, I'm back. It's been a while. I've been traveling in different places of the world and kind of thinking about my channel, about my next chapter. And here's what I came up with. I came up with an interesting idea for a video. I'm going to teach you guys, tell you, not teach you, but tell you today about how I made the worst investment of my life, and maybe my biggest business failure, and maybe you can learn something from this. It's all glamour out there. People in real estate and business, you see them selling properties, successful, opening champagne, all the cool stuff. I want to tell you a little bit of the kind of nitty gritty failures that few people talk about them, and maybe you can learn something from this. So this is a particular deal that I'm kind of like, I don't want to give you names and specific details, but it happened to me about 5 years ago, and I was introduced to a big time real estate operator that was buying, I would say probably big or even giant deals. So I'm not talking about $1 million. I'm talking about 50, 100, $150 million deals. I was kind of like enamored with the strategy, just going that big and scaling. The guy was very charismatic, and he's done a few big deals. He was in the news, and and he was just really looked like the real deal. Honestly, I checked on him. I checked the references. I toured his buildings, and I was like, wow, this guy is a visionary. Next Sam Zell or whatever. Next Blackstone. This kind of guy. So you definitely, when you meet somebody that impressive, you want to be around them, you want to learn from them. He had this aura, right? And I got enamored with him, really. It was like a man crush type of stuff, that, I don't know if you ever had this, but I had it with few people. And so what I approached him, listen, I love what you're doing. I'd love to invest with you. I rarely invest with other people, but I was very, as I told you, I was very impressed with him, and he checked out, and I was like, look at this guy, knows what he's doing. He has a very specific business plan. And I said, like, listen, let me invest with him. And not only I'm personally going to invest with him, but I'm going to also raise money from my friends and family, and I'm going to invest with him. And we raised a few $1 million, a lot of money. And we gave him this money on paper. Everything was written down by lawyers, contracts, everything was cool. And basically his goal was to buy large buildings. And update them, convert them, and rent them at high rates. So we're talking about apartment buildings, and potentially sell them to really big investors like pension funds. So we're talking buying a building for, let's say, $50 million, upgrading it, raising rents, maybe adding some amenities, gyms, free internet, lounge, all that stuff, maybe pool even, and then sell them to bigger fish, right? And ultimately, in our industry, the bigger fish is the pension funds or companies like like BlackRock, Blackstone, who own Goldman Sachs, or companies backed by those companies who own massive amounts of real estate. So I raised a few $1 million, papered it, we struck a deal. I saw him multiple times. Every time I had a good vibe, good feeling. This guy is really humble. The guy really knows what he's doing, and I gave him the money. I retained. I'm just being pretty cautious. I retained kind of the right to inspect what he's buying, to tour the properties, understand what he's doing, which I've done. But he just followed the plan, and little by little, together we acquired very large properties together. My investors, him and his other investors, and things were great. He managed to sell one building. This is across multiple buildings. Managed to sell one building. We got our return. Holy cow! So we doubled down. We saw like the plan is successful. Let's add more money. So we had some serious money with this guy. I'm talking about close to $5 million. And plan was going well up until, well, two things happened. Okay, so some of the things were out of his control, some of things under his control. Number one, COVID happened, right? So the downtowns where he was buying the buildings shut down, right? People stopped coming to the offices, but they were still living in those buildings. These were residential buildings. The second thing that happened a year later, the interest rates, which are very important in real estate, rose. As interest rates rise, the values fall, right? Because it becomes more expensive to finance them. And that's what happens to anything that's kind of, especially real estate, but anything that's like interest rate sensitive. So that happened. But then I started looking closely and touring more and more buildings that he bought. And he was buying a lot of buildings, a lot of units in the buildings. And I saw that he was neglecting the buildings, right? So the whole idea was to update the units. And I saw really the work that he was doing was a quality work in the beginning, because of his growth, like a really torrid growth, buying hundreds of units at a time, or buying a whole building of $50 million. He started performing shoddy job, right? Just really shitty construction, very flimsy materials, and just like really not built for the market, because he was saving money, and God knows what he was doing with his money. And I started having doubts, and I started kind of approach the guy, and I said, listen, we invested a lot of money with you. You were straightforward with me, but like, what's going on with this construction quality? What's going on with the type of shoddy job you're doing? So he came to, listen, Alex, things are a little slower now with interest rates, with COVID. People are, just give me a little time. We're gonna work on this. And then as I was calling him, he became less and less communicative, and he kind of like stopped answering my phone calls, emails, phone calls. So to meet with the guy, I had to drive to his office, talk to his secretary, which is ridiculous, and try to find the guy when he was in the office. And I confronted him. I said, like, hey, listen, what's going on? You're avoiding me. You're not giving us reports. I see the properties, some of them not rented. And he says, yeah, we're working on this and everything. So he basically kind of continued evading me. My family and friends were asking, like, Alex, what's going on with this investment? And I was telling him, listen, guys, I don't know. I hope it turns out okay. My kind of key value is being honest and authentic. So I always communicated in an authentic way with my investors and told them all the problems, not trying to hide. Versus this guy, he was trying to hide the problems. So what ended up happening in a few months from there, I saw we stopped getting reports, we stopped getting distributions, right? In real estate, what you do is you pay somebody, and it's the general partner of the deal, the person who runs the deal, pays investors distributions. Distributions stopped. And I kind of started hearing through the grapevine that the guy is having financial difficulties. We're talking about 2 years into the deal. By that time, the guy probably bought, this investor probably bought maybe close to $1 billion worth of real estate. So we're talking massive, massive deals. And I've seen it, unfortunately, I've seen this story many times, but I did not believe this could happen to somebody so big and so experienced like this guy. But greed, ego, pride really took the better of him. He got driven by greed now at this point. And he was hiding from investors, from us. Then, I called my investors. I told them, guys, my friends and family, not my investors. And I told them, guys, we are, I think we have in trouble here. I'm going to try to get to the bottom of this, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm not so certain about this investment anymore. And, these were the heydays of 2021, 2022. So we were 2 or 3 years into the deal. And then I got an email from a bank. It said, Alex, we're a bank. We're working with this guy, and he hasn't stopped paying us, mortgage payments. Now, in the real estate world, that's a big, big no-no. That means that's the last thing you do, because lender can just take back your building, and basically you're going to lose everything that you put into this. Now, that got me really worried, and I contacted him once again, and he just refused to kind of own up to what he's done, and just kept saying, it was kind of almost delusional, like saying, like, no, we're going to turn it around. It's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. And look, I've been around incredible entrepreneurs who kind of like power through obstacles and eventually, succeed. But, I gave him a little bit of benefit of a doubt, but because of his miscommunication, because of his kind of avoidance, because of his like inability to own his mistakes, I really started having serious doubts. So what ultimately ended up happening 3 years into the deal, 2023, the bank told me, listen, we don't want to deal with this guy. We want you to step into this investment you made, because I was the largest investor with my group in that deal. And said, we want you to run the deal. We want you to rescue the deal and pay us back the loan. So for 2 years, I stepped into, really 2 years of my life, very stressful period. I stepped into the deal, and I slowly, little by little, starting selling the assets, trying to sell them at a good price and return as much money as I could to my investors and my friends and family, and had a lot of very serious and very tough conversations. And I honestly, many nights I lost sleep. I felt terrible that I put my friends and family into this deal. And that was a great lesson for me. So what I learned from this, really not to invest with the wrong person, really do my due diligence, and not get enamored with big shiny things and guys who promise you big returns and buying big assets and making bundles of money. So I know maybe it's a simple lesson to learn, and maybe some of you kind of smirking and giggling, but to me, and I was not a young guy. I was probably 10 years into my career. That's my biggest mistake, and I learned a lot from it. And I hope you guys can learn from this also. It's basically, I would say now from now on, yellow light in business is a red light for me. Anytime I get a feeling or a vibe about somebody being dishonest, about somebody being a not communicative, not transparent, I'll walk away. And that actually, brought to mind now. The best quote I got, and maybe you guys can use it in your lives, is that when I was starting my career, I met this older investor who made tens of millions of dollars buying hotels all over the United States. I asked him a question, Peter, what's your biggest takeaway from your, and I was a young guy back then, I was just starting out. What's the biggest takeaway from your 30-year career that you made, tens of millions of dollars, bought buildings worth of north of $100 million? He goes, Alex, it's the deals that you don't make that are going to make you wealthy. And I looked at him like, I was 20, 23, 24 years old. I was like, this guy's delusional. What is he talking about? You make money by doing deals. But 15 years later, having gone through this type of ordeal with my investment, I now understand what he meant. It's the deals that you don't make that make you wealthy. So hopefully this is a good lesson for you guys. You're going to learn from this and avoid the glamorous shiny things and save yourself money and heartache.